Hello. A couple of months ago my friend Phil brought his Sky Hunter over and we flew it around the farm for a bit. This is the big 1.8 meter version and he has a PIX Hawk in there running Ardupilot, and it's the first time I've really had anything to do with Ardupilot or the whole PIX Hawk system, and I got to say I was very impressed with the way this thing flew, the autonomous functions that is. It was very accurate on the waypoints and positioning, and when you put it into a loiter it drew an almost perfect circle on the map. I was quite surprised to see how well it did. The only other fixed-wing flight control I've had anything to do with in the recent past was iNav, and that was not a perfect circle by any stretch of the imagination when it was loitering. And I think a big part of the way that it was able to do so well, Ardupilot that is that it's using an airspeed sensor, and I think I read somewhere that it's also modeling the direction of the wind, so it's a few steps ahead of iNav for fixed wing purposes. And I also really liked the convenience and the advanced features that you can have in the ground station, so it really makes you feel like a pro when you're sitting there with a laptop using all that stuff. Anyway, the reason we were doing this was Phil was looking at doing a big aerial mapping project, and somewhere along the way we thought that it might be a good idea for me to get a backup plane just in case something happened to his. So he loaned me one of his spare PIX Hawk flight controllers, and I ordered a bunch of the peripheral stuff like the aforementioned airspeed sensor and radio telemetry modules and stuff like that. And then somewhere along the way the project fell through, I think. I haven't actually heard anything more of it for quite a while, so I assume it's not going ahead. But I still have the airspeed sensor and the telemetry modules and so on, and I'm just missing a PIX Hawk flight controller. And I wasn't really inclined to buy one because every time I've looked at them in the past, the price just sort of put me off. They're usually about $80 to $100 from what I can tell. And since I don't have a big aerial mapping project of my own to be doing, it just didn't seem like something that I needed. But when I saw this on Banggood, I was quite interested because it seemed like the perfect fit for the situation I was in, being a cheapskate and also having everything but the flight controller. So this is called a Mini PIX, and it's a F4 flight controller, processor being F4 that is, with a MPU 6500, M8N GPS, and a funny barometer which I can't remember the name of, I'm not familiar with it. But what's interesting about this mostly was the price, because it's $50 and you're getting a pretty decent GPS module. From what I can tell so far, I haven't opened it and looked at it or anything, but the performance, from what I can tell, it is an M8N. At least it matches the sort of same kind of performance that I've seen with my other M8N modules. So this is typically about $20, right, if you buy one of these separately. And this thing here is, let me just look at this a little bit larger. This thing here is a 5-volt regulator and also a large shunt resistor, large current capable shunt resistor. And from here you can power your module, and also you get the current sensing capability as well. And these, I think these are about $10 roughly if you buy these separately. So if you're looking at this as $30 worth of stuff here, then the flight controller and the button, I guess, and some wiring becomes $20, which all of a sudden looks really, really quite reasonable price for a flight controller. So I'll just scroll down a bit. I'll let you look at most of this yourself. I did want to look at something on this page. No, I didn't. Oh yeah, there's a link. Yeah, people are questioning whether it's going to work properly because it's not an official product or something like that. So that's part of what I'm making this video for, to see how it works. And they've put a link to the user manual here, which is this one here. And this is unfortunately not very good for much. It's better than nothing, I suppose, but this is basically what you get in the printed paper in the box. So yeah, that's about it. And if you go to the main page for this product 133 on their website, you'll see just what we saw on the Banggood page, just sort of some advertising guff really. The only difference is that there is a link here to, as you can see in the bottom left hand corner of the browser window, there is a link to the Mission Planner software. And I found that when I clicked on this, the download speed was going to take about 25 minutes, and I just couldn't be bothered. Their server is really slow for some reason, so I just went to the normal Mission Planner page and I downloaded this one here. So that's what I'm going to be using in the next few steps. I thought what I'd do in this video is just go through stuff step by step so that if anybody buys this thing they know a little bit about what to expect, and maybe also possibly helpful for people who are new to Ardupilot, because I'm basically a newbie. I did have a little bit of experience twiddling with some settings on Phil's plane, but essentially I haven't done any setup of a plane myself. Actually, there was just a little bit more on this page that I should probably look at before we move ahead. If you go almost down to the bottom, we can see a list of things that they're calling parameters, and here we can see the actual type of the processor. The gyro and the compass are pretty standard sort of things. The barometer, though, is something that I'm not familiar with, never seen one of those before. Is this what's on a PIX normally, this barometer? I don't know. But you can see there you have two plain UARTs for Mavlink and then one that they're calling GPS UART, and that's because I think if we look a little bit further up here, GPS plug that they've got here has I2C and UART on the same plug, whereas these are just UARTs only. And it's quite good that we have this little pinout diagram here, because as I'll show you in a minute I might have to make up some plugs of my own, so it's good to know exactly which wires are which on these ports. What else was there down here? So it takes PPM and S-bus, no I-bus, but I guess this is technically a feature of the software rather than the hardware, so I guess if Ardupilot or whatever software you put on it can accept I-bus, then I guess you get I-bus as well. And then I2C, they've put one there, but that is of course shared with this plug, and as we'll see in a minute that is also slightly inconvenient because the airspeed sensor that I got and some other things that you might want to put on it that use I2C, you're going to have to sort of pull those wires out of this plug here somewhere, because I'll show you in a minute. Well, I'll show you right here. Alright, here's what you get in the box, and you also get this piece of paper here which is just the same as what we saw on the PDF document before. So what I was just trying to say a moment ago is that because you have the UART and I2C in this single plug here, if you want to add anything else for I2C, you're going to have to cut this away there and tap into whichever one of those wires there, probably the blue and the white, I think, and you're going to have to fiddle around with that to get some I2C other things attached. So yeah, like I say, I think this probably is an M8N in there. This is the top, and you can see the antenna is quite large. It's one of the 2.5 centimeter square ones, pretty big. And on the bottom here though, you can't see any, here's the can, the metal can around the sensor itself or receiver itself, but there's no U-Blocks sticker on there, which is a little bit strange because every other GPS from U-Blocks that I've seen, or Microblocks, whatever it is, has a sticker on it, and this one doesn't, so it's a little bit strange. But I have not connected it to the U-Center or Micro Center software to look at what type it is officially, but from the performance I've seen just by connecting it up with this on the USB to my computer, it performs quite well, so I'm guessing it's a legit module. Alright, so over here, let's have a look at this. We just saw that. So this leads me to one of the other slightly inconvenient things about this, which is good and bad, and that's the type of plugs that they've used. So they're using, I don't know what you call this type of plug, but if we can just focus on here, it has what is actually quite a nice system. So this sort of tab here will make it lock in so that it can't be just pulled out without pushing this little tab down at the back. And I really like that because it fits in there nice and securely, and it makes a little click, and then it's not going to pull out on its own. At least not, you probably could if you really gorilla strength it to get it out, but if you just squeeze that tab, then it comes out quite nicely. So it's a really good safety feature, but the problem is that every single plug they've used here is using the same sort of thing, and that means that if you if you're buying this, as I did, to use with other PIXhawk peripherals like your telemetry module like this, your plug's going to be probably like this, which seems to be what the PIXhawk gear is all using for the most part. And actually I got this thing here which I was planning to use for an I2C expansion, and you can see that those are all the same kind of plugs as well. And this kind of plug, which is this one, there's no way, actually let me just hold these up, hopefully I can get these to focus together, but there's just no way one of those plugs is going to accept the typical, I think the one that I'm holding on the right is called DF13. So whatever it is, it's just never going to fit in there, because you can see the metal pins on this one in the flight controller module, they're actually sort of on the outside. So I hold it like that. Now fortunately, as part of the kit, they have given you one of these. So you can use this for, well, it's a 6-pin one, so it's probably going to have to be one of these telemetry connections like this. And then you can do whatever you want with that. So that's kind of neat, but it would be nice if there were 2 of these, because then you could make 2 telemetry things. And also it would be nice if there was one that was, where are we? It would be nice if there was one with 4 pins, so that you could use it there, I think, or 5, whatever. Anyway, it's just a little bit inconvenient to have these plugs. So when I say it's good and bad, it's good that they're a nice solid connection, but it's bad that they don't follow a standard. It's just unfortunate that the standard seems to have become this one, which is not such a secure plug, but can't really be helped at this point. Okay, so there's this thing here. I don't really think we need to look at that too much. It has a smoothing cap on there, which is quite nice, I guess. Then we have this module here, which is a LED and a button together and a buzzer, and then there's this cable for that. And then the last thing that we have here is this, which goes into the receiver RSSI plug. So that is, yeah, that's 4 pins on that one, and this has a connection which I presume this will go to your PPM or your S-bus on your receiver, and that would be to an RSSI pin. So you get enough to put a basic APM module set up together, but it's inconvenient that you can't easily extend it with I2C stuff. Okay, now we're going to spend a bit of time looking at the Mission Planner software, but I'll just show you how I'm going to set up the hardware, and it's not really much of a setup. I'm just going to plug the USB into the flight controller and have the GPS connected, so nothing else is connected. And you can see, if you're familiar with Ardupilot, there's a orange light flashing and there was a little bit of blue and red light flashing, so that probably means something to somebody, but doesn't mean anything to me at the moment. By the way, the cable here is quite nice and soft. I'm not sure if it's silicone or what, but it's nice and soft and flexible. It's, yeah, quite nice. One thing that's not so nice is that you have to use Windows for all this stuff, so I'm going to have to record a remote desktop to my laptop. So I've installed Mission Planner, and that installed some drivers, and when the drivers were installed, this thing showed up here, PX4 Flow on COM10. So that's the device that we're going to be using. And let me just start up Mission Planner, which should be here. Yep. So I have not done anything to this module yet. This is basically what you should see when you first start it up, or you won't see my house like this, but obviously I have been looking at this before. At the top here it says Auto, and originally my COM10 was not there, but that doesn't seem like a problem because I just left it on Auto and I clicked Connect and it managed to find it, although I'll just let it finish before I say although what. So it gets all those parameters, and then it says new firmware available 3.5.4. Do you want that? Not yet. But it said copter there, did you notice that? And it says quad rotor up here in the top right, and we're getting an icon of a quadcopter on there. So it looks like from the startup this is set to use, it's set up as a quadcopter. So what I was saying about this connecting process, that did not work for me the first time, and that was because when I first ran this, I was just running as a normal user and it would not connect. But when I tried run as administrator, that's what I'm doing now. Hey, wait a minute, no, I didn't do that this time. What's going on? I didn't do that just now, did I? But it worked this time. That's weird. Oh well, never mind. But if you have problems with the connect button here not working, try run as administrator, because it definitely did not work for me the first time I did it without running as an administrator. Anyway, so it looks like the GPS, actually it says SATs 0, that's weird. But when I first tried this about an hour ago, it started off with SAT 0 and it went up to about 14 even though I was inside. So that's the reason that I'm thinking that it's a legit u-blox M8N module. So there's not really a whole lot for me to show you at this point because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but one thing I did notice is that if you go to initial setup and you go to wizard, I thought I'll just change it from being a multi-rotor to a fixed wing. No, you're not going to do that here, are you? If this was iNav, you just set it to fixed wing. But from what I can tell, you actually have to install a completely separate firmware. So that's what I'm going to do next, and it says you can't do that while connected via Mavlink. So I'll just disconnect this, and okay, getting firmware list. Whoops, what happened there? Okay, so this is the only fixed wing one, isn't it? So let's do that. Yes. Oh dear. I wonder if this is what people were talking about in the Banggood comments. I might have to go back to the Banggood comments and check and see if this is what they were talking about. Please update your bootloader. Well, that's a bit of a spanner in the works, isn't it? For me, at least, anyway. Oh, what's it doing now? Downloading from internet. Reboot to bootloader. Scanning COM ports. Error uploading. Firmware not suitable for this board. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay, so what that kind of makes me think is maybe I do need to use the firmware that Radiolink themselves are providing. This one here that takes 25 minutes to download that I couldn't be bothered waiting for. I'll download this then. But look how slow it is. Oh, that's not too bad. Okay, so let me download this and I'll install this and I'll see if this one will deign to install itself for us. Yeah, just while I'm waiting for that to download, I'm looking at the comments here and somebody says downloaded mission planner from Radiolink, which you have to. And then somebody else said basically the same thing. Where is it? FC only works with Radiolink mission planner. Well, that kind of sucks because when the Ardupilot guys or the mission planner guys make an update, then you can't get that immediately, at least. I mean, you have to wait for the Radiolink people to do their update before you can get any mission planner updates. Kind of sucks. For some reason this one's making me download .NET Framework when the official mission planner version did not. Let's see if we can do this install firmware thing using this. Hopefully it should go a bit better. Plane. Ardupilot 3.8.4, yes. Downloading. Did we get this far before? Aha, okay, so we're getting further this time. That's good. Alright, well I'll let this finish and then come back when it's done. So now it says up here Ardupilot 3.8.4 and actually I haven't really looked at the rest of this, but presumably now we'll have some different options in here maybe. Wizard. Okay, so this is different to what I had before. And I wonder if we have some plane specific stuff now. Airspeed. Okay, so I don't think this airspeed was here before. Well, anyway, it looks like the firmware is updated correctly and we are now dealing with a plane. Although there's nothing in here. Oh yeah, here we go. Content fixed wing, yep. Cool, so it's a plane at least. Let me just sort of figure out what I need to do next, or maybe I could just follow this wizard. I suppose I should put this in my plane before I continue, but I think for now I'll just calibrate the accelerometer just as the module itself, so it's not in the plane. I'm just doing this sitting on the desk. It says place vehicle level and press any key. That didn't work, so I assume I actually have to click this button. Left side. Compass 2 I don't have a compass 2. Why is it? Oh, do I? Oh, I do, maybe. Ah. Oh, gotcha. There's a compass in the... Yeah, there's a compass in the flight controller, and there's a compass in the GPS, so it's using both of them. Oh, what's a PX4 and a PIX4? What's the difference between those? PIX F4, what is this thing supposed to be? PIX... I'll just go with PixHawk. What sensor are you using? What? Have a sonar? No. I don't see anywhere on this page where I can say whether I'm using S-Bus. It would be nice if it just... Like, I've got my radio here and I should be seeing something. So let me just try PPM and see if that helps. Ah, okay. Although, oh, it is responding, but it's really slow. Oh, this is terrible. Okay, but I can see them moving at least. Okay, so no idea how to set it to use S-Bus, but at least PPM looks like it's working. Sorry to sound like I'm griping all the time, but how on earth do you select what switch position should be this flight mode and that flight mode? Is it this over here that's blocked off the screen? Like, I can't change the size of this window frame, so presume it's something over there that I can't see. If I just click through this now, I can finish the wizard, but if I go to this one here, so now I can actually see what I was probably supposed to be able to see before about the switch range for each flight mode. But what switch is it going to be? I have two switches on here, right? So which switch? How can I set which switch to use for the flight modes? It's funny that, like, this software has been around for a lot longer than CleanFlight and iNav, I think. Well, it's been around for a lot longer than iNav anyway. But in some ways it just seems a lot further behind in usability than those newer ones. It also wasn't immediately obvious where you select what type of plane you're using, because for a flying wing like I'm going to put this on, I need it to know that it's going to be controlling two elevons instead of a rudder and elevator and separately and stuff like that. And there's a list of parameters on here which is a little bit daunting. It just sort of goes on and on and on and on and on. And I couldn't find anything about elevons in here. There is, thank goodness, a search feature there where you can type in a keyword. But I had to go back to Google and find out from the documentation again. You need to set this to be left elevon, servo 2 will be right elevon. That's actually not too complicated, but it would be nice if there was something a little bit more user-friendly in here to get it. So, servo 1 function, presumably it's must be this one, right? Must be the one below. So that's left elevon. Wow, look at all the options. Ooh, man. What was it? Left elevon, right? It's not here. Oh. Why are they not in alphabetical order? Hold on. Elevon left. Must be that one. Whoops, careful with the mouse scroll wheel. There we go. And then presumably servo 2 function will be around here somewhere. There we go. So this will be elevator right. Elevon right, that is. Well, this is a bit scary. I can't click away from this focus, so if I accidentally use my mouse wheel to try and scroll up and down this list, it scrolls up and down my selection and messes it up. You really should be able to focus the mouse, get the input focus away from this input there, like that. Ah, there we go. Alright, so that's elevon set up. And then the third one needed to be throttle. Servo 3 functions throttle. It's probably what it is already if I had to guess, but let's just Servo 3 functions throttle. Okay, that's good. So that's the flying wing setup done. Okay, I think I'll put all the stuff into the plane now. That'll make it a lot easier to do some parts of that wizard. And to do that, I'll be using this telemetry module, which means that the plane does not need to be physically connected to the computer, so that'll make things a lot easier as well. And fortunately, it has all the connections labeled on this. And when I looked at the layout of this, they are one-to-one. They just come out and they go directly into the plug on there in the same order. So I'm going to cut one of these wires and connect it up so that I'll have a plug that goes from one of those to one of those, which I think is going to be absolutely necessary. There's no way around it. Okay, I've just been figuring out how to get the telemetry modules to connect to each other, and I found that I needed to install a driver. Where is it? Had to go to FTDI's website to get a driver for my modules, and now when I connect, it does this very, very slowly because it's doing everything over the 915 megahertz radio connection instead of USB. It's a bit strange that it says already got here. Why does it get them twice? And I also found out that I needed to set this to 57.6 to get that connection to work. But it seems to be going okay. Man, this is slow. I got to wonder why it needs to get every single parameter on startup. Like, most of the time you're not going to be looking at these parameters. You don't need to get all of them all the time. Okay, next thing I'm trying to figure out is the battery voltage and current display, and I didn't know what to choose on here, but I thought it might be the same as 3DR power module, but it seems like it's not. And I've noticed that these things that are very, very difficult to read here, it's actually a grayed out number. If it's grayed out, that means you are unable to edit it. So I can only edit this one here at the moment. Why is this? No, I can't edit that one because that's the calculated output. Is it? I don't know. Anyway, I found that you can set this to other because at the moment the battery voltage calculated says 13.5, and I'm powering it from a very large 4S LiPo that's at storage charge, so it should be 15.2, so it's not quite right. But if you select one of these pre-configured ones, you can't do anything about it. So I found that if you select other, it will change this one. Why does it say calced here? That's weird. But anyway, it'll let you edit this, and this is a multiplier so that instead of 13.5, if I wanted it to be higher than that, I can put this to say 12, and then I need to click away to somewhere else by the looks of it. So you'll see this come up to 15.7 now. Takes a while to settle. Okay, so it's going to be about 16, which is too high. So maybe 11.5 or something. But anyway, I can fiddle around with this value here until I get the calculated voltage to match up with the 15.2 that it is in reality, so that's fine. And I can also do the same thing here for amperes per volt, I think. And this is where it would have been nice if this Radiolink documentation, this paper thing that it came with, actually gave you some useful information about this, because it should be the kind of thing that you can just plug in to get the right values, I would think. Okay, I connected a current meter in series with the battery so that I could measure the current just at rest. I'm not going to power up a motor and get a heavy load of current. I'll just, for now, set it at the resting current. It won't give me such an accurate reading, but it'll be right for now. And I was putting that off before because I know now that every time you need to restart the flight controller, and I needed to restart it to put the current meter in series, of course, you have to sit through this painfully slow process. This progress bar, by the way, is not indicative of how far it gets through. It sits up here for about a minute and a half when it gets to here. It seems to take about 4, maybe a little bit more than 4 minutes each time. So I really think they should do something about this, because 90% of these parameters you're not going to need to look at in the configurator at all, I would say. Only if you're actually going to go in and change them. So there's got to be a better way to do this. Alright, so that startup procedure is probably not quite 4 minutes, but it is still annoying nonetheless that it takes so long. Another thing I didn't actually notice, but it occurred to me as I restarted just now, is that I didn't actually click save on any of these pages to save a setting. So when you type something in here, it just gets immediately applied. I'm not sure if that's good or not. I kind of think it probably doesn't matter either way. You just need to be aware of it, I suppose. At least it means that you're not going to forget to click save and then think that you've set something when you actually didn't. Anyway, so I'm looking at the current meter now, and it's reading just a little below 150 milliamps. So if I guess make this about 16, then we can probably get this to read 0.15-ish. It would be nice if these numbers, or this number at least here, didn't take quite so long to settle on the correct number. But yeah, it's still usable. Okay, I've spent quite a while fumbling around with this now, and I still cannot figure out how to get the flight mode to switch. In the documentation it says that when you change the switch, one of these should go green, or hang on a minute, let me just come back here. So see, there's one that's green there. That should change to reflect what flight mode you're currently in. And it doesn't say. I'm assuming that it's only using one channel because it's just got ranges from 0 to 1750 plus. So it looks like you can't use two switches to arrange your flight channel, which is kind of stupid. And it also doesn't say which channel it is, although when I looked at some forums here, can I change the PIXhawk flight mode channel, this guy says channel 5 seems to be locked in for the flight mode switch, and he can't figure out how to change it. It would be nice to, basically that's what I'm trying to do as well. But if I look at my radio thing here, you'll see that when I switch my switch, it's a little bit slow because it's working over that 915 megahertz serial connection, but you can see that my switch range, or the channel 5 changes to reflect what I'm doing with my switch. So I would have thought that when I have it at 1500 here and I go over to the flight modes, this one here 1491 to 1620, this one here number 4, flight mode 4 should be active, but it ain't. So I looked at some documentation which was also not very helpful. It says this article shows you how you can enable up to 6 flight modes to be set from your RC transmitter. It says setting the flight mode channel. The flight mode channel is the input radio channel. Which one? Don't know. That Ardupilot monitors for mode changes. How do we change it? Don't know. And then it just goes on to here. It's got this arrow and the circle pointing to channel 5. So this again makes me think it should be channel 5. But here it says the screenshot below assumes that the flight mode is set to radio 5. So perhaps it's not always radio 5. I don't know. And then the weirdest thing I've ever seen here. Why would this be different for different radios? Like, isn't a PWM pulse just a PWM pulse? Or a PPM pulse, I guess it could be. Why would it be any different for a different radio? That's really strange. Yeah. So I'm not having much luck with this. Although I do notice that one guy down here is using the same radio as me. So FSIA6, same receiver as me, I guess. Well, I'm using IA6B, which has iBus, but this one doesn't have iBus. So he said he connected channel 5 of the receiver to channel 5 on the flight controller, and now it's working for him. So I'm not sure if he's using PPM, but I actually don't have the option to do that because I don't have separate pins for channel 5 PWM. Like I can't connect a individual channel. I only have this RC input, which is a collective PPM. So I don't have the option to do what this guy's doing. So I'm a little bit stuck at this point.